Hey guys, it's Adam here. So I just finished watching Nintendo's E3 Direct thing, and I thought I'd go ahead and talk about the games and all that stuff that was announced. Do a little concise thing here. Apologies for the way this looks and everything. I'm still in a hotel room in Anchorage, Alaska, which you can see, over there. Hopefully you can see some mountains or whatever. Anyway, that's not the point. So let's just talk real quick about, basically what happened here. Apologies for the lighting and the sound. There's only so much I can do. The first thing they did as a kind of a surprise little announcement there was an update for Smash. Kazuya, I can't pronounce his name. He's a character from Tekken. I recognized him immediately. It's like, oh, cool, he's getting added to Smash Brothers, and they kind of made a little bit of a, I'm not going to say a joke, but kind of an acknowledgement of the fact that Smash Brothers has really become like an all-purpose fighting game. When you have him versus, Ryu from Street Fighter, or Terry Bogard from the King of Fighters games, and all these different franchises that have all just kind of blended into Super Smash Bros. Smash Brothers is becoming like an officially licensed Mugen, that PC like open source fighting thing. It almost is starting to come off like that. But either way, cool. They added a new character. Then they announced Life is Strange True Colors, which I guess is a sequel, as well as a Life is Strange collection, are both coming to the Switch. I think the collection is coming out first, and then True Colors is coming out later this year. One thing I gotta say, I gotta give props to Nintendo for, with only a handful of exceptions, they're pretty good at being like, hey, you're excited about this thing? Well, it's out right now, or it's coming out this year, or it's coming out in a couple of months. There's only a couple times where they're like, later. And in those cases, it's like, next year. We'll talk more about the overall thoughts and everything, but, most of this stuff is right around the corner. Then they talked about Guardians of the Galaxy. I don't think this is a new game. I think this is just getting a Switch version. There was kind of a mixture of like, hey, this is a big thing we're doing that's brand new as an announcement to Switch. And then there would be things that's like, this is a game that already exists, but now it's going to have a Switch version type of thing. So it was just kind of, weaved throughout. So forgive me if occasionally I get one of those wrong. But yeah, Guardians of the Galaxy by Square Enix coming to the Switch. I know the Avengers game wasn't very good. I don't know about this one, so I couldn't really say, but either way it is coming. Then a new game called Worms Rumble. Actually, I take it back. It may not be a new game, but Worms Rumble is coming to the Nintendo Switch. And I guess if you get the Switch version, there's some like free DLC that's going to be around for 2 weeks or whatever. It's like a costume. It really doesn't mean much, but either way it is coming. Astria Ascending. I think this game, again, already exists. This looked like, kind of an RPG type of thing, which is not really my thing, but I'm sure there's people who are excited about it, so yeah, either way, that's coming up. 2 Points Campus by Sega. They did like 2 Points Hospital and all that stuff. Those games I know are doing very well for them. It's not really my thing, but hey, if you're into it, it is going to be a thing. This one I was more excited about. Super Monkey Ball Banana Mania Collection. So I guess Super Monkey Ball is like 20 years old, which is really weirding me out because that was one of the first big Sega franchises that wasn't on the Dreamcast. Like, I remember when it came out on the GameCube originally. It's like, oh wow, Sega on Nintendo. It's so weird. That was 20 years ago. Getting old, man. You're all getting really old if you remember that. But anyway, so they're doing this big collection type of thing called the Banana Mania Collection, or at least it's just called Banana Mania, but they describe it as a collection, and they showed a whole bunch of the different games. So it looks like it's going to have all of them in there. Maybe I can get some clarification on that for you later, but I'm pretty sure that's exactly what it is. That'd be cool, actually, because I'd love to replay some of those first games with, some remastered capabilities. Not that I couldn't play the OG versions, but, why not? Then they talked about Mario Party Superstars. As far as I know, this was a new game. I don't remember this ever being mentioned. It's kind of a new game in the sense that, I don't think this was ever announced. But gameplay-wise, it's Mario Party's like greatest hits. They basically took the way they explained it was they took a whole bunch of the content from previous Mario Party games, and then they just kind of upgraded them. Kind of like some of those Mario Kart games where they would say like, hey, there's a level from Mario Kart 64 and we completely redid it in a modern engine for a newer Mario Kart game. Same basic idea, but with Mario Party. So it's called Mario Party Superstars, and if you're into Mario Party, it looks like you're going to have a lot of stuff, and apparently every single level, and there's like 200 levels or something, are all playable online. This, I think, was the biggest mic drop moment of the whole thing. They started talking about Metroid again. First of all, they mentioned Metroid Prime 4. They actually acknowledged it, which they hadn't done in years, and they just straight up said, like, don't worry, we're working on it. That's not what we're here for today, though, but yes, we are still at work on that. But the thing they then, they started showing some gameplay of a new Metroid game called, at first they called it Metroid 5, And then they just said straight up the name of the game is Metroid Dread. It looks much more like a traditional Metroid game because it's part of that mainline series. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I swear the guy said this is the first new Metroid game in like 19 years. So Metroid 4, I guess, was 19 years ago. It's I gotta say, like, okay, cool, yeah, that one, sign me up, I'm on board. That was probably the most shocking news of the whole thing, was that there's a new Metroid game in development, and it looks like it's actually relatively close to release, which is pretty neat. Then they did the thing where after Nintendo's very good at the structure and how they do these things because they've been doing these directs for so long, that after a mic drop moment, they tend to just kind of throw a couple of upcoming announcements out of the way, stuff you've probably already heard about, but they're just kind of like reminding you, basically free advertising or cheaper advertising. So like Just Dance 2022, not a secret, we all knew that was coming. Ubisoft talked about it, it's their game, whatever. Then they did one called Cruisin' Blast. This obviously was already a game that's been out for a while. I don't think I've ever heard of it, but it looked like a cool enough racing game. And then they talked about a Dragon Ball Z RPG called Kakarot. I'm not an anime guy, not a Dragon Ball Z guy, but I know this game already existed for a while, and people have, I think, have enjoyed it. Either way, whatever, it's coming to the Switch. Then they talked about Mario Golf Super Rush. I didn't quite catch this. I don't know if this is a new game, because there was a Mario Golf game not that long ago. I think this might be DLC for that, but I could be wrong. Either way, something called Mario Golf Super Rush is coming. Then they started getting into newer game announcements again. Monster Hunter Stories 2. I've never been a big Monster Hunter guy, but, you know, it's a big franchise, and as far as I know, this is news. You have to understand, sometimes when that's not your franchise, you just don't tune into it. So it's like, okay, I don't know if this is new or not. I'm pretty sure it is, though. This one is WarioWare Get It Together was a new big announcement. Now, WarioWare kind of, you know, made its way out there, I think, in the DS era, and I know there was a Wii U version and all that sort of stuff. So this is a brand new one. It looks very big. It looks pretty neat. This one is definitely one of mine where I would be like, okay, yeah, I want that. Let's check that out. Then they made a big deal about Shin Megami Tensei 5, the Sega Atlas title. That is coming. I guess it's relatively close to being done. Obviously, this game is not a secret. I mean, people know about Shin Megami Tensei for a while, or Shin Megami Tensei 5 for a while. I think this was just really kind of like the big update, be like, here's what it looks like, and all that sort of stuff. Then they did something called Danganronpa Decadence. It's a collection of all 4 of those games, just all coming out at once. And it was kind of interesting. They made a point that if you bought it physically, you get all 4 games on the cart in one go, but if you bought it digitally, you had to buy each game separately. Go physical, you know? But anyway, that's the thing. This one, probably my biggest, of course. Like, I was surprised, but I was happy, and then I was like, of course. Like, all in one emotional go. The second they had the way they did their art design is they would show you like a little character or something from the game before they would say what the game was or anything. I immediately recognized it, and I was like, I know exactly what's happening here. Fatal Frame 5. They showed the main girl from that game. Fatal Frame 5 is getting a North American, as presumably Japanese and European, physical Switch edition, which is a big deal because Fatal Frame 5 never came out in the United States or Canada, anywhere in North America, physically. We got a digital version, but in Europe they got it. I actually have it for the Wii U. I believe Japan got it as well. We just didn't. We got it digitally. So we're finally getting that, which is neat. And it's also just kind of funny because it's like, dude, the Wii U has almost nothing left on it that you haven't taken. And this one was like just almost petty. Like, it's not like Hello Kitty Cruisers petty where you just take, you know, something that really didn't need to be converted. But it is kind of funny. But either way, this is actually a good one because this is a game a lot of people missed out on, and it's like a legit good game. And they added some new stuff to it and polished it up a little bit more and all that sort of stuff. And I appreciate that. I love survival horror. What I am a little sad about, though, is like, you didn't give me Fatal Frame 4. That one's been trapped on the Wii forever, and it still bothers me. And I believe that one only came out in Japan, too, which is even worse. So there's like an exclusive Fatal Frame 4 over there that's never been converted or brought over, but you couldn't have done a collection? That would have been nicer. Or at least, could you do a collection of 1 through 4, and then we finally get 4 over here? That'd be cool. Just saying. But anyway, so yeah, that was cool. Then they had this little rush moment where they do, once they drop a big one, I wouldn't say that wasn't necessarily a big one. It was big to me, but after that they have this tendency to just be like, okay, and rapid fire a few things. They talked about Doom Eternal DLC coming up. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2, the remaster, remake, whatever, is coming. Strange Brigade. This one I have to admit I had not heard of, but it obviously already existed, so I don't really have much of a thought on it. Then they expanded a little bit more on the whole Mario Rabbids Sparks of Hope thing that Ubisoft is making. Kind of already said my piece on that in the Ubisoft video, but, you know, it looks cool. I do like that those particular two games are actually Ubisoft games, they're not Nintendo games. And they've told me a lot that can be good because Ubisoft likes people to cover their games in videos where Nintendo does not. So they actually had to draw an agreement together to be like, if it's the Mario Rabbids games Nintendo, you can't go around Content ID claiming everybody's videos. You just got to stay out of it. So they did that. This one was a bit of a surprise, and I know one of my friends in particular is going to be like super stoked about this one. Advance Wars 1 and 2 Reboot Camp. Cute name. Advance Wars 1 and 2, I believe, were GameCube and like Game Boy Advance era, and they've decided to remake those games from the ground up, like the same content, but completely, you know, totally redone for the Switch. While not really, I know that's something that a lot of people are going to be on board with. Then they just had like Zelda time, which was both awesome and disappointing. The first thing they talked about was Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity expansion pass. They basically just explained all the DLC that's going to be coming for Hyrule Warriors, showing the timeline in which it comes out and where it actually takes place. It takes place like 100 years before Breath of the Wild, and cool. Then they did some more detail on Zelda Skyward Sword HD. Again, that's not a new announcement. We knew about it. They were just kind of explaining more how the gameplay works and showing it and all that sort of stuff. I'm actually very happy about that because we're liberating a good game that was stuck on the Nintendo Wii is now going to be put onto a much better platform. I'm still not a fan of the Wii, and I never will be. So then this was like the love-hate moment. So they were talking about the Zelda 35th anniversary, right? And so they straight up, you know, said like, okay, here's what we're doing for the Zelda 35th anniversary. And I'm sitting there thinking like, as much as I think it's kind of funny and almost petty to take everything from the Wii U, like Fatal Frame 5, I seriously expected them to be like, okay, Twilight Princess HD and Wind Waker HD, both converted over to the Wii U, probably relatively easy to convert over to the Switch. Where is it? Like, isn't that seems like low-hanging fruit? They didn't talk about that. That never came up. In fact, he straight up said, like, we're not doing anything. We're not doing any games. There's no other random 35th game release that we haven't told you about. We're just not doing it. What we are doing instead is we're doing a Game & Watch Zelda edition. It's going to have 4 little games on it. It's going to have the NES games, so Zelda 1 and 2, as well as the Game Boy edition of Link's Awakening, and a game called Vermin, where the main character is actually replaced with Link. And that's going to be like their big 35th anniversary, and that thing, the Game & Watch, comes out in November. Not that that's not neat. I'm just stunned. And I appreciate the guy being so brazen about it, though. His quote was, "No other Zelda games are planned," referring to the rest of this year for the anniversary. Unless they're lying, which I guess they could be, but wow. And then the last thing they did, which was no secret, it was that Breath of the Wild 2 is in development, so they just showed some of it, some gameplay, whatever. And the only, I think, real shocker to that one was the time frame. They said that we're aiming for next year. For 2022, it's going to come out. Which, hopefully that's true. That would be cool. So overall, I mean, that was kind of it. I think it was actually a pretty good conference overall. I think I only covered 3 of them. It was this one, the Xbox conference, and the Ubisoft conference. I think I would give it to Nintendo. They're even despite the fact that, you know, all of these suffer from the same flaw, which is that there's no real audience and you're just kind of making a video. Nintendo is a little bit more practiced at that because they've been doing it that way for what, 8 years, 9 years, and they do those directs pretty frequently. So they're pretty good at being like, here's our little characters, and then here's a game, and then, you know, they're pretty good at like throwing that out there. Microsoft, I still think, needs some work on that. So, and I didn't watch the Square Enix one or the Capcom ones. I know that everybody was complaining about those. Whatever. Yeah, I would give it to either Xbox or Nintendo. I think I would hand it over to Nintendo more likely, just because I think that Metroid one is probably the big winner of the whole thing. I think the game I would be most excited about from Microsoft, as I mentioned before in the previous one of these, would be the Flight Simulator. But from Nintendo, the fact is I've got multiple choices, ones that I'm excited about. Like, I was excited for Stalker 2 and all that, but my big one for them was Flight Simulator. For these guys, I legit can't decide if it's Fatal Frame 5, which again is not a new game, or the Metroid 5. I guess I give it to Metroid. I'm gonna give it to Metroid. I'm making a call, executive decision. But yeah, that'll about do it here. Hopefully this coverage is helpful, more concise. I apologize again for the way this was shot. Again, I am currently up in Anchorage, Alaska, going to Fairbanks tomorrow. But yeah, that'll about do it. If you guys could follow me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all that stuff, it's in the description. Patreon, all that, I appreciate that as well. If you could like, comment, subscribe. Tell me what you thought. Like, who won E3? What's your favorite games? Did you like this conference? Did you like any of the conferences? Interact, let me know. And also pop into the Discord, because I'm still doing that while I'm wandering around. So I appreciate that as well. Thank you guys very much for watching, and I'll see you all later.